Hi, this is a tutorial for the ball joint arm part. First thing we need to do is open a new file and make sure that part is selected. Okay. Alright, now we've got a new SolidWorks part file. What we want to do first thing is select the front view and take a look at the front plane. One of the other things that's helpful too is to make sure that under view we choose to see the origins. Alright, so now we've got our origin showing, and the first thing we need to do is create a sketch. And the sketch in chapter 5 where the ball joint arm is shown is essentially a center line that goes through the origin. So let's go ahead and add that. We're going to make sure it's for construction. Go in here, start someplace like that, make sure that it goes through the origin and it's horizontal. So one of the things I like to do is just hit escape whenever I'm done with a line. Seems to detach it and set you back so that you can choose another tool. We need to put one circle around the origin. Doesn't matter what size, remember we can dimension it later. Then we need to put another circle out here around. We'll go ahead with the end point of that center line. Again, doesn't matter the exact size. Also, we want to sketch. We'll select OK, and we want to sketch a line in here that looks something like that. Again, it's helpful as we go along if we make sure those lines are horizontal and vertical. And again, I'll just hit escape to get out of it. So end up with something that looks roughly like that. And then we need to add one more line that goes from here. Oh, I'm sorry, I was still in circle. Need to go back and add a line. It goes roughly from here all the way through and ends at the outside perimeter of that circle. Okay, escape again. And the next thing to do is to trim it. So let's go ahead and hit our trim. Trim to closest will probably work here. We'll see if we can get rid of the bottom of that circle. We need to get rid of that little line segment, and we need to get rid of the outside portion of that circle. And so we're left with something there that looks roughly like that. Now again, we haven't dimensioned it yet, so we have to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and check, say that my trim's okay. And now I'm going to go back and do some smart dimensioning. Smart dimension up here. And the dimensions in the book, I'm going to go ahead and stick those in there really fast. I'll do 275 here. Alright. And I'm also going to do 125 for that. 125. Alright, so it's starting to shape up here a little bit, but one of the things that you'll notice is that these dimensions are showing up as 2 decimal places. I kind of like them as 3 decimal places. And if you remember, one of the things that we can do with SolidWorks, remember we were talking about system options and document properties. Well, we can go over to Tools, down to Options, and then under Document Properties, we can choose our units. We're in inch, pound, and second. But we can also choose some information about the dimensions. And so I'm going to choose 3 decimal places for our primary precision. And then I'm going to go down here. You probably can't see it, but I'm going to select OK. I'm having a little trouble getting down there to it. You can just see the bottom of the OK button there. Let's see if we can get down and select OK. Right, then once I did that, you see that the dimensions are showing up as 3 decimal places. So that's we've kind of got that squared away the way we want it now. Okay, so I'm going to continue dimensioning in here. I think the radius on this part, excuse me a minute, the radius on this part should be 0.368. Alright, and then we have an overall length from this point to this point of 2.518. So we're going to add that overall length here and make that 2.518. Alright, I'm going to use my zoom to fit here, kind of bring everything up so that it's easier to see. Now you'll notice that this is looking a little funny, so let's go ahead and dimension that. Let's make that radius 0.375. 0.375 and enter. Okay. Now you'll see that everything's defined except for this point right here, and it can still slide to the left and right. So let's take care of that dimension from there to the center point should be 0.475. So we'll enter that information, and it's starting to look a little bit better. I'm going to move some of these dimensions in a little bit closer here, kind of tidy up our drawing so that it's not so rangy or spread out so far. We'll move this point in on this center line just a little bit, if it'll move. It doesn't look like it's going to. So I'll actually use my window zoom here and get in a little bit closer to some of that. So as you see, this sketch is fully defined now. The only thing that's left is to add some 1/2 inch radiuses or radii in that area here. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'll select our sketch fillet tool and make sure that's set to 0.050, whoop, an extra decimal there, 050, and we're going to do this one and this one, and then we're going to do this one and this one, and then we'll do here and here, and that should take care of all 3 of those fillets. Yep, looks like we're in good shape. Now, what we need to do at this point is just do a revolve. We're done with our sketch. Done with our sketch. And let me move these radius call outs here. Get it a little cleaner looking. Now, we'll rebuild that sketch. And what we want to do is revolve that. So we'll do a revolved boss or base, and the SolidWorks software automatically recognized that we wanted to do that about a center line. So we wanted to do it blind. We want to do it 360 degrees, so we can just leave the default settings there and click OK. Alright, so now we've got the basics of our part done. We probably would probably be a good idea to save the part at this point. File, save as, and we'll just name it LD ball joint arm. Alright, so that way we don't lose it. We've got it saved to that point. And so what the exercise in the book asks us to do next is to choose a top view of the part. And we're also going to choose to view hidden lines, or make hidden lines visible. That way we can be sure that we see some of the hidden features in that part. And the first thing that we're going to do is create a couple of circles out here on the end. Alright, so we're going to start a new sketch. Bear in mind that everything that was in that original sketch that we used to revolve is no longer, we're not going to be using that sketch anymore. Some of those things may show up there, but with a new sketch, we're on our own with a completely new we're on our own with a completely new sketch here. So let's start a little bit. Make sure we know what we're doing here. Oh, we needed to select the top plane here. Alright, so we're going to select the top plane. I selected the top view, but we needed the top plane selected. So now that we've got the top plane selected, we're going to do a new sketch. And as I was mentioning a while ago, this new sketch, there's nothing in common between this sketch and the one that we used to make that revolved part. So we're on our own now with completely new sketches. The first thing that we need to do is put a couple of circles here, one small one and one a little bigger, and they really need to be on that center line here. And I'm going to just bring that one again. Doesn't need to be any particular size. Alright, and then a second one with the same center point. We're just going to bring it out here somewhere. Now what the book, your workbook, asks you to do is to make sure that we make add a relation and make the smaller circle and that hidden arc, ask to make them co-radial so that they're the same size. And so I've ended up with both arcs selected. I'm going to have to get out of that. Alright, so I don't want, what I did wrong was I selected that arc, and that arc, and it made them all the same size. So what I really need to do is select only that arc and that arc. Oh, shucks. Add the relation and make them co-radial. Alright, so that makes sure that that arc fits perfectly inside that area there. Now I also need to make sure that we add some extra construction lines here. First of all, we're going to choose to put a line here. We're going to draw it from here to there. Again, it's not exact. We're going to trim it later, so just throw it in there. The other thing we need to do is put an arc in there, and we're going to choose a 3-point arc. We can choose any one of several, but the 3-point arc is what we need to do here. So we'll stick that thing in here. Alright, and we'll just set it there. Now, one of the things that I noticed that everybody who's worked on this so far has had trouble with, or most people, is that right here in this area, whenever the smart dimensioning is done, that arc gets all distorted, and that's because it's not defined well enough in terms of all the other stuff that it's connected to. So even though the book didn't mention anything about doing that, I think it's helpful to add a relation between arc 5, which is that one, and arc 2, which is that one, and make it tangent. And I think it's also good to do the same thing between this arc and that arc, and make those tangent. Alright, that kind of firms up some of the geometry there and make sure that everything's working the way it should. We can come up here under view and make sure that we view the sketch relations. That way we can make sure we've got those tangent points set there. Now we can back out of that and start doing some trimming and some other types of things. Let's do trim to closest, and we can do this one, we can do that one, we can also trim that line and that line. So everything's coming together nicely. One other thing that is helpful here is to put a center line in this part while we're doing the sketch for construction only. That kind of helps give you a reference point for some of the other things we got to do. I'm going to smart dimension from that, actually it's from this center line down to the center point of that arc, and the book says that that should be 0.250. Okay, and also the radius of this part should be 0.425. Alright, so because these lines have turned black, that means that they are fully defined. Our sketch though is still not quite fully defined, and that's because this thing can still move around, and so we can cure that problem by adding a relation, and we can add a relation between that line and make it collinear, and that way it can't move around anymore, and so this thing is fully defined. Once we have that sketch fully defined, we can go over here to features and do a revolved boss or base, and the software knows, or it thinks, that we want to revolve around line 3, which is that one. I think that's fine. And also the thing that we want to do is do a mid plane, and we don't want to go 360 degrees, we actually want to go 75 degrees. So I'm just going to type 75 in there. Alright, and then click OK, and that should do it. If you want to see what the part looks like as a solid, we can change our display style, and so you see we've got that extruded. Now what we want to do is mirror that from down here to the upper side of the part. So the thing that we can do is select front plane, and then we can go up here and select mirror, and we can choose the feature to mirror, which is the revolve that we just did, and you can see it stick it up there and get ready to go with it. And so we're going to say OK, and that puts that part at exactly the opposite point on that part. So we're nearly there. The only thing we have to do is add some fillets to sort of smooth the part out, make it look a little smoother and not as so that the lines are not as sharp there. So what we need to do is go into fillet, and the first fillet that we need to put in there is an 80 thousandths fillet. So we'll put in 080, and we'll choose these locations right here. Just those points where the backside meets the cylindrical part, and then we'll say OK. And as you can see, it's just smoothed out that intersection between those two parts. Then the next thing we need to do is another fillet, and we need to do it at, I believe it was 15 thousandths. Yep, 015. So we'll change that to 015, and what we're going to fillet is some of those sharp edges on the edge of that part. So let's do that. Well, actually, we don't want to do that. What we actually want to fillet are those edges right here. And once the software figures out what you want to do, it starts giving you some extra little suggestions. Do you want to do this too? And so I'm going to go ahead and do all those. I'm going to flip it over and do the same ones on this side. And moves around just a little bit more. Get that one, that one, that one, and that one. And once we get all those edges chosen, we can just click the green, and it'll make that part rounded on the edges, really smooth and more gentle edges. So that's the part. I hope this helps you out just a little bit. Thanks a lot. Bye.